Awesome. Well, we're super appreciative of you being here. I'm going to load my slides and use them to guide me throughout. If you cannot see my slides, let me know, but you should be able to see the opening slide, which says ArtsBuild grant programs. Okay, we'll get started. Let me log on. Okay. So good afternoon and welcome to the FY27 fiscal year 27 grant programs informational session. My name is Melissa Aston. I'm the Director of Grants and Community Engagement here at ArtsBuild. Been here about 4.5 years, and I'm thrilled to guide another fiscal year of grant making for ArtsBuild. You'll see here a couple examples of projects that have been funded in the last year or so. Scenic City Shakespeare, the Ames Center, all bring arts to Hamilton County. It has been, this last fiscal year was pretty amazing in terms of projects funded by ArtsBuild. 102 projects were funded and over 900,000 in funding flowed forward through Hamilton County to elevate the arts. So the agenda for today is I'm going to give a ArtsBuild overview. On this session, I see some old faces that I've known for years and some new faces that I look forward to getting to know during the process. So we'll talk about ArtsBuild, we'll talk about grants, I'll open it up for questions and comments and things of that nature. So before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to read ArtsBuild's Diversity, Equity, Access, and Inclusion Statement. ArtsBuild does not and shall not discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, creed, gender expression, age, national origin, ancestry, disability, marital status, sexual orientation, or military status in any of its activities or operations. These activities include, but are not limited to, hiring and firing of staff, selection of volunteers, vendors, and provision of funding and services. We are committed to providing an inclusive and welcoming environment for all members of our staff, client, volunteers, subcontractors, and vendors. At ArtsBuild, we believe that creativity belongs to everyone. Our commitment to diversity, equity, access, and inclusion isn't separate from our work. It shapes how we invest in artists, organizations, and communities across Hamilton County. So many of you know that our overarching mission is to build stronger communities through the arts in more places for more people. You'll see that on bumper stickers and on our website and through our social media. Our goal is to flow the arts throughout Hamilton County to meet the needs of all of our residents. So most individuals know ArtsBuild because of our grants, and our grant making is a huge part of what we do. But we also support arts education, leadership development, advocacy, professional development opportunities, and shared services for artists and arts organizations. Grant making is certainly one of the ways we invest in the communities, but it's really part of a larger commitment to strengthening the arts ecosystem throughout Hamilton County. I always like to remind folks that receiving a grant isn't the only way to connect with ArtsBuild. We hope you will take advantage of our trainings, networking, and opportunities and other resources. I'll break that down a little bit. Many of you on this call, and if you're not, we'd love for you to be a part of our Holmberg Arts Leadership Institute. We just had our first session this last Thursday, and it is a once a month opportunity where you can learn about all the parts of the arts that make Hamilton County great. So last Thursday, we were on the fourth floor of the library, welcoming the new cohort, learning about the maker space up on the fourth floor. And it was a great evening to kick off the next 9-10 months of leadership development. We also are very heavy into advocacy right now. We have our newest employee, Christina Sacco, is leading advocacy efforts to help us spread the word of the economic impact of the arts on Hamilton County. And then shared services, about quarterly, we do have workshops that help individual artists, community members, arts organizations do what they do even better. So keep an eye on our social media and our newsletter. Of course, none of this work would be possible without the support of our funders. We're incredibly fortunate to have generous foundations, government partners, individual donors, and community supporters who believe in the power of the arts. Their investment allows us to provide grants to support artists, arts organizations, nonprofits, community organizations, helping them create meaningful arts experiences throughout our county. And I will read them off because it's important sometimes to say out loud our gratitude. ArtsBuild individual donors, individuals such as yourself who give of their treasure to support us in what we do each and every day. Benwood Foundation, City of Chattanooga, Footprint Foundation, Lyndhurst Foundation, Mark Making, National Endowment for the Arts, and the Robert Finley Stone Foundation. We're incredibly grateful for all of the support. You'll see the two pictures here are two recent grantees. The snail to your left is by artist Jay Baker, who received an artist work grant that enabled her to create this amazing sculpture that now lives at the downtown library. And then Next Exit Productions is the local production company that does plays, and they do cast iron storytelling and all the things in between. And this is a picture that occurred during their Greenhouse Festival. So today we're going to talk about the Community Cultural Connections Grant. It is the one grant that is currently live via our grants portal. And by talking about it, you're going to not only learn about this grant, but also the process of applying for any and all of our grants as they come open throughout this next year. So the goal of this grant program is to provide arts and cultural experiences to new and diverse audiences, broaden the type of arts and cultural offerings supported by the community, including established and emerging artists and arts organizations. Use arts and culture to strengthen community unity and demonstrate the positive economic impact of arts and culture. So as I mentioned just a second ago, this application is live. I looked this morning to make sure I did not mess anything up, and it was right there ready for people to start applying. And a little further in this session, I will jump over to our grants portal to show you the application and kind of walk you through it. This application is very similar to every one of our other grant applications. We try to keep it um, fairly standardized, so it's not recreating the wheel every time. So for this Community Cultural Connections grant, the granting period runs from October 1, 2026 of this year through June 30th, 2027. So what that means is you can apply now for any project that happens between that time period. Let's say your project doesn't happen until spring of 2027. I invite you to go ahead and apply because it is the funding is on a rolling deadline. So, which it means is once the funds are exhausted, then we close the application. So we just keep reviewing until the money till the money runs out. Um, if you have any questions about that before you start applying, you're welcome to reach out to me. So who is eligible to apply for the CCC grant? It actually has a pretty wide eligibility reach. So you can be a nonprofit, you could be a unit of local government, institution of higher education, a federally recognized tribal government within Hamilton County, Tennessee, or a county bordering Hamilton County, Tennessee. That said, all projects have to happen within Hamilton County, Tennessee. We have a lot of great bordering counties who house great artists, great organizations who actually do all of their work in Hamilton County. So we recently broadened that eligibility piece. As long as everything happens in our county, then we're good to go. So this grant also allows individuals, such as artists or individuals committed to furthering arts and culture, to apply. Neighborhood associations are encouraged to apply if you're a part of one. Take it back to your community and talk about this grant. I'm also willing to attend a neighborhood meeting and talk about the grant and encourage and invite your neighbors to think of a project and submit an application. And then community organizations, ethnic and cultural organizations and clubs, arts organizations and groups. The caveat on that is if your organization is a ArtsBuild mission support recipient for this current fiscal year, you're not eligible to apply. And they were already told that, but I'd like to reiterate that just in case it has been forgotten. And then last but not least, faith-based organizations. The caveat on this one is one supporting underserved populations. The project does need to be secular in nature and open to the public. I will pause here for just a second to see if anybody has questions about eligibility, the goals of CCC, or any of the things I've talked about in respect to ArtsBuild. Okay. Okay, let's see. There is a chat. Let me grab the chat really quick. Ms. Barnett said nonprofit only in terms of eligibility. So if you're any of these entities, you can apply. So this isn't just for a nonprofit organization. Does that make sense? Okay. So the Community Cultural Connections Grant is one that you can apply to up to 2,000. So what that means is you can apply for 500, you can apply for 750, or you can apply for the 2,000 depending on what your project needs. This grant does not require matching funds, which makes it really accessible to community groups and those without large budgets. So the categories of the arts that this covers is visual arts, fine craft, media, performance, and literary arts. And then also fashion arts are eligible for consideration and may be classified under multiple disciplines of arts, depending on the nature of the work. And you'll see down here is another picture of Scenic City Shakespeare and the work that they do. Okay, so let me get to my correct slide. Um, I'll check the chat. There was someone who established. Um, Mary or Bethany, you're welcome to go off mute and ask your question. I don't quite get what you're asking.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, yeah, I was just, curious. I don't really have very much understanding about the grants. It's why I'm here or whatever. But just like putting into like doing a workshop based on what I do, is just making philosophical concepts into like practicable art. I guess I'm just asking to see, does that like align with what's acceptable?
Yes, the Community Cultural Connections Grant can be used to host a workshop that's arts focused. So if the work you do has engages the arts in some capacity, for sure.
Yeah, poetry mainly. But and then the part about, does it have to be an established business? Because I haven't gotten that far with
You
it.
know, so you could be any of these entities. Is so it would be the second one, individuals.
Individual. Okay, okay.
Mhm.
I'm with you now. I'm with you now.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Yeah. No, great question. I appreciate it. Okay. So some of the activities and expenses, which Ms. Barnett kind of prompted us, thank you, to this next slide of what can be covered through the grant and expenses. And so you can do festival performances or exhibits, special performances and exhibits by residents, um, visual art groups and performing art, one-day workshops, classes, things of that nature. It's pretty much sky's the limit as long as it's related to the arts in some capacity, furthering the arts, and it's engaging our community. The general public is invited to participate. What kind of expenses are eligible under this grant? You can pay local artists and arts organization fees, supplies and small equipment, local travel, rental fees such as equipment and venue. So a lot of festivals need to rent audio equipment. That is fine. Or let's say you need to rent out Barking Legs Theater. That's eligible under this grant. Marketing, such as like printing posters or running ads or printing flyers, things of that nature. Documentation, let's say you have a professional photographer who is documenting the event or videographer, that would fall under it. Assessment tools and project director fees. In terms of the expenses, keep in mind that um, we can support you in making connection with area venues. If you check our website, we have a list of past grantees and their artistic disciplines. So you might be able to find a photographer or a videographer through that. Also, our community arts partners, the orgs, 21 orgs through Chattanooga that receive mission support funding through us, they're all listed in what they do. And so let's say you want to touch base with Dynamo Studios, which falls under Songbirds Foundation, to get them to help you with the photography or videography part of your project, if that is part of one. So just use us as a resource if you have a roadblock of knowing who's out there who can support your project. So what type of project expenses are not eligible? So this grant will not pay for permanent staff positions of an organization. So the clarification on that is you might be an organization that pays staff. If you're paying that staff to run that project, a portion of what they are making can be a part of the grant because it's directly correlated with the project. But you can't just pay their salary globally with this grant. You can't do capital improvements on such as buildings or construction, major equipment purchases, seed money for starting new organizations. This grant is not for in-school projects. It cannot be for fundraiser or event sponsorships. This grant does not cover food and drinks or monetary prizes.
Melissa, we have a question in the chat.
Yeah,
They asked, does this apply to restaurants that host local talent?
yes. If this grant could cover local musician fees in restaurants or venue spaces and things of that nature. I will talk about this at the end. So all of these grants, though, are determined by a panel of community members who make those decisions. And so when a grant comes through our portal, I go through it and make sure it's eligible to move into review. But if you do have a question about eligibility before you even start, I'm always available via email or telephone to talk through. But yes, to pay local artists to engage patrons in your establishment or venue, restaurant, things of that nature is eligible. Just some additional grant information is projects expected outcomes must be stated and assessed, and you'll see that in the application in a few minutes. Project and finished artworks must be documented. Projects must include publicity that recognizes ArtsBuild as a funding entity. And I'll halt here and say why. Um, you know, as much as I like to say, like, we could do this work undercover, ArtsBuild could do this work undercover, and y'all could do your thing, and we wouldn't need anybody to even know that we've been a part of it. That's just not the case. It's really important that our community recognizes that the arts is flourishing in a large part because of the work ArtsBuild is doing, which enables us for future funding opportunities. And so we do ask that you include our logo on any marketing materials and when you promote it, or if you go on the radio, let's say Scenic Roots with Ray Bassett, just always add in funding has been provided through ArtsBuild, the Community Cultural Connections Program. I'll provide all of that, the logo and information once you are awarded. And then there is a mid-grant update and end of project reporting required. I'll talk briefly about that. The mid-grant update really is me emailing you saying, just checking in, seeing how you're doing. Can you give me a 3 to 5 sentence update? This just allows me to touch base, to know that you're moving forward. And if you have any challenges that maybe we can support and step in and guide and make your process even more successful and less stressful. And then the end of the project reporting is a pretty standardized report where you're talking about, couple successes, couple challenges, you're reporting on what you spent the money on, things of that nature. everyone who is awarded funding through ArtsBuild is provided that final report at the very beginning. And so you'll know what you're reporting on. And I'm always willing to help you get that report submitted at the end. So never worry about touching base with me for support. Okay, I'm going to scooch back. I'm going to unshare this for just a second and go to our grant system. Okay. So you all should be able to see my screen that says View Forms. And I clicked on that down arrow. And what is public right now is two items. Submit an ArtsBuild final report. That doesn't pertain to you right now, unless you're a current grantee. But the second one is apply for Community Cultural Connections Grant FY27. So I click into it, and you'll see there's a basic description and eligibility. I'm going to click on the grant guidelines. So this is the first thing you're going to read before starting your grant. So what it does, it tells you if you're eligible to even move forward. And a lot of this, actually all of this, except I haven't talked about the rubric yet, has been on my slides. But the goals of the program, funding requests can be up to 2,000, deadline, granting period, who's eligible, who's not eligible, accessibility piece. So you just scroll. Usually these are about 3 pages long. You'll see at the very end is the grant evaluation criteria, and I'll talk more about it. But this is what our grant reviewers use to determine recommendations for funding. All of our grants currently are on a 100-point scale, and you'll see there's 4 categories. And I'll talk about that in a few. I'm going to click out of that. And I'm going to hit apply. And it's going to make me log into an account. Let's say you're new. You're new to this and you don't have an account. You'll hit create account. I've actually already created an account that's outside of ArtsBuild, so I can show you what you really would see versus what I see as an ArtsBuild staff. So this is the next thing you will see once you have logged in. So I'm going to do a new one. Let's see if it'll let me. Yep. Okay, great. So there's always a headline at the beginning of our applications that kind of tells you about where the funding is standing. Like applications will be accepted until funding is exhausted. This heading will be updated regularly. So every time you log in, you'll know where we're at in terms of the funding. And then you hit the next button. And if you notice on your right side, you can see all of the questions. So you can review the questions before you get started. I'm going to, do a little bit of them together so you can see. So have you read and understand the ArtsBuild Community Cultural Connections Guideline? We put that because sometimes we as humans get so excited, we move forward really fast without reading the guidelines. And that is really the biggest resource of this entire process. So we want to ensure that you have read it. If you hit yes, it'll say, great, move forward with it, reach out. And I mentioned this, but pro tip, read all the questions before starting the application. Let's say you hit no for whatever reason. It's going to encourage you, oop, it didn't let me change it. It's going to encourage you to reach out to me for support and guidance on the guidelines. So I'm going to keep going. Oh, I don't know what that's doing. Great. And then it's going to ask if you happen to be a 501c3 and all of that. As I mentioned earlier, you do not have to be. We do track that. That's why it's in there. Email address. Some of these are just really standard. So there, now you get to the meat of the application. And what I have done with the application is all of the main questions have been chunked under the scoring criteria. So this question here is under the artistic quality and cultural experience. So you can read that scoring criteria before you start answering, so you can kind of keep in mind what the reviewers will be looking for as they are scoring. And this is really the one of the bigger narrative questions. You can do it as a written answer or a video. So you're going to describe your project in detail. You know, when are you doing it? How are you doing it? Where are you doing it? Who is benefiting? Things of that nature. It is really important to nail down the date, nail down the venue, and the whole core of what you're doing. Vagueness does not actually help you with the application because these projects are really pretty rapid turnaround, and so they will be scoring based on definitive details. Let's say you don't have the venue nailed down though, because you've been emailing them and life has been busy with, it's summertime. A lot of venues are super busy, but you can put, let's say, so and so venue. I have emailed them. I'm waiting for a response, but I do have backups, or somehow explain the security of the venue so that the reviewers can understand that you have made meaningful steps to secure that venue. I will say having a definitive date is like 100% what you should be doing for this grant. So if you only know at this point you want to do something in the spring, I would step back for a moment and figure out the date so that when you submit the grant, it has a definitive date or dates attached to it. We've just recently added this question: does your project involve the use of artificial intelligence, AI? It does not affect your eligibility or your capacity to be funded. We're just getting a pulse on how it's being optimized throughout our county so that we can be well-versed and knowledgeable and supportive in the ways that are most appropriate. Upload examples of your work. It doesn't have to directly pertain to the specific projects you're doing, but like any of your body of work that your organization or you as a human have done that demonstrates that you have a capacity to move forward with the project if you are awarded funding. So this scoring criteria on this question and the one coming up is project implementation. So your capacity to move forward with this project successfully. And so timeline. So include as many dates as you can to demonstrate to the reviewers that you have all the ducks in a row from A to Z to be able to facilitate the project. So with marketing dates, planning dates, rehearsal dates, event dates, even like debriefing dates, anything. So you just do like chunk your dates and just put what it is. So that one's fairly straightforward. I'm not going to go through all the questions, but I'll go through one more. Who will manage the project, or who are the artists involved? Be specific, list names, how they were selected, and describe their related experience and qualifications. Before I move forward, did any questions arise specifically about the guidelines that I projected or the application, whether how to utilize it or any of the questions I went over? I'm going to share my slides again. Okay, you should be able to see my slides. So as I mentioned before, all of our grants are determined by community members coming together in a panel to read and score the grants. Every panel is comprised of different Hamilton County community members. And so the side caveat on that is, let's say you're on this session and you're like, wow, Community Cultural Connections grant is pretty great, but I'm not interested in applying at this current time for whatever reason. But maybe you are interested in being a grant reviewer for this grant or a future grant. You just touch base with me. I provide a training. I provide support throughout. The entire process is virtual. Um, so it's members of the community such as yourself. Sometimes our board members are a part of that panel, things of that nature. We do live in a smallish medium city, and many of us know each other. Many of us are patrons of all these different arts venues and arts experiences. So we are very careful about conflict of interest and making sure that our reviewers are not biased. And if for some reason a conflict of interest does arise, we just remove the panelists from the applications that there are conflicts of interest so that every grant application has the best chance of a successful review and potential funding. I talked a little bit about the scoring when I brought up the Community Cultural Connections guidelines, but here's the 4 categories: artistic quality and cultural experiences, project implementation, budget, goals, and outcome. And then we encourage you to read the guidelines thoroughly and check your eligibility. Explore the application early. For this grant, I would do it ASAP because this grant, the funding for this grant will go pretty rapidly. Touch base with me if you have any questions. Double check your budget to make sure the expenses match up with your application narrative. And then also ask a friend or ask a colleague to read your application and provide feedback. Friends and colleagues really want you to be successful, and they'll be honored to read your application and give feedback. And fresh eyes are always a good thing. Here at ArtsBuild, when, let's say I write a grant for ArtsBuild or someone else does, we always send it to another staff person for fresh eyes. So, okay, I am going to jump back into, I want to show you the budget template really quick if I can. I didn't lose it already. Let's see. Let's see what this is. No. Give me just a second. I'm going to pull up because I think it would be very helpful. I should have done it when I was in Submit. And while we're waiting for me to catch up with myself. If any questions are burning on your brain, just let me know.
Hi, Melissa, Robert. I have a quick
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Um,
What's your question?
I'm looking at it as from the aspect of an individual artist.
Okay.
And the two things I was looking at maybe sourcing materials, what would that fall in the budget? And then would I need to do a showing in a venue? And that would be the ultimate goal.
Yes, so this grant is for engaging community members and in some capacity through the arts. So if you are an artist who wants to do a community-wide exhibition, including your work, um, that's how you do that. So this isn't a artist work grant, which is another type of grant that we do offer at certain times of year. So an artist work grant, pays an artist to do their work and end in a performance or an exhibit. This one is more like an engagement of underserved individuals in the arts. So a lot of our grants focus on supporting older citizens of Hamilton County, community members who live on the edge of our county, which often doesn't get tapped by the arts as much as city center, or community members who might not have the economic capacity to engage in the arts. So it has to involve our community as part of the project. Does that help?
Yes, one thing I would add is I'm currently now a resident at St. Andrew's Center. And
Awesome.
would it be easier to say, maybe get with the director there and say, write a grant just for the center for some of the artists, or could it be for me just individually doing a showing at the St. Andrews Center?
Yeah, you can engage a group of artists who want to do a show at St. Andrews, and you could do marketing to bring in, a wide swath of Hamilton County, and you could have an artist talk during that time, things of that nature. But it just does need to include the general public is engaged in some way.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
I get that now. Yes.
Yeah. And you're always, as you're working, anybody working through the application, I can do a draft review and things of that nature. Okay, I'm gonna, you should be able to see my application again, and I'm going to scroll down to the budget question. Slowly, I am. Let's see. Okay. One more. Two more. Okay, we're here right here. Okay, the budget question. This is probably one of the more important questions on all of our applications because there is a budget template, a budget form that you must use to be considered for review. That's our one sticking point. Why we do that is we want our reviewers to have a consistent form to look at the income and expenses related to an application because budgets are already confusing enough. And so when we have different formats, they tend to get really confused, and which does affect scoring. And so do you see on the upper right-hand corner, this little download button? It's very tiny. I can't change that. So I like to point it out. You're going to double click that and it's going to download and you're going to bring it up and you can slowly, it's going to bring itself up and it will, okay, here we are. So this is the budget form. You'll enable editing, and you'll put your applicant name. I did put that in red. People forget to put the applicant name, which also confuses reviewers because they see the same form and they have a lot of tabs open. So this first box is the income. It's like, what are you requesting from ArtsBuild? So let's say you're going to request, I'm going to do it in real time. You're going to request 2,000. Let's say your project is going to be a $3,000 project. So you're going to do another line item, and I'm going to say randomly foundation. That's who's providing the other funding.
Hey,
And then
Melissa, this is Lindsay with the Austin Hatcher Foundation. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Are you showing us a spreadsheet?
I am. Can you not see it?
No, we cannot.
Okay. Thank you for
Sorry.
no, you're fine. That's great. That it's not great that it's not showing, but I'm glad that I will do it from my desktop. Let's see.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. When I was doing that, what were you able to see?
We were still, well, I was still able to see your previous slide. So
Okay.
I think if you open, sometimes I know when I open a new attachment or something, it doesn't always show when you're screen sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, as many years as I do Zoom, I'm always surprised how
There
much
we
I
go.
learn. Oh, so you see a
Yes,
budget form? Great.
thank
So
you.
yeah, no, thank you. So you put your applicant name, you put all the income, like, and hopefully y'all can see me typing this in real time. And let's say a foundation is providing, and then you come down here. 3,000. So you're saying the whole project is going to cost $3,000. Then you're scrolling down. You're going to see two expense boxes, one and then two. The first one is just the expenses that ArtsBuild, you're hoping ArtsBuild will cover. So you put all that. It needs to add up to what you put in the very first box, so 2,000. The second one is all the expenses that are not being covered by ArtsBuild, but that are needed for the project. And for this, because I put 1,000, it should add up to 1,000. And then the last one is in-kind contributions. These are things like, let's say the venue provides you with a percentage of their space for free or completely free, or if, let's say, you got some marketing materials for free, great. You put that in there. And this, and then I put a little spot, like if you need to add notes to clarify anything of the above, you can do that as well. But it's just as straightforward as that. Describe the income, describe the expense, things of that nature. If you have a hard time downloading it and then uploading it, you reach out. I have been known in real time to do it with the people and then upload it myself. That doesn't bother me because I want to make sure that your application can be reviewed. Any questions about that? Okay. And then I'm going to reshare. We just have a couple more slides. I lost my slides. The final slides basically are start early, use us as resources, know that your work is important and we value it. And we hope that you can apply. And if you decide that this isn't the right time, know that if you're signed up for our ArtsBuild newsletter, that is where we announce our funding with We're hoping to launch future grants maybe about mid of our fiscal year, which is January 1, an artist work grant or multiple artist work grants possibly. So keep up to date with our newsletter. You just go to our website, artsbuild.com, sign up. It comes through your email every Thursday. It can list events for arts and culture. It will list our funding or any of our programming. And sometimes if there are art jobs here in Chattanooga or regionally, we do have a listing for that. And that's all I have for today. I'm going to open it up for questions, or if there are past or current grantees who have any feedback or want to say anything, we welcome that as well. Okay. Well, thank you again. I am going, oh, hey, Becca, do you have a question?
I just wanted to share the process of applying. Probably is one of the most um, easier ways to navigate through. Your questions are extremely direct and it's pretty simple. A lot of grants, when you're applying for them, seem to be difficult, but the ones with ArtsBuild has been pretty easy. I would never say easy, but they're definitely a lot. Is a way of navigating through them that makes it make sense. So if you've never written a grant before, or if you're an expert at writing a grant, this one is less evasive, but they ask the questions that they really want to know, and it is worth every moment it takes to get the answers that you need. They're very flexible. If something changes, because something always does, they definitely are a little bit more lenient when it comes to understanding. And it is for creatives, and no matter what aspect you're from, as far as a creator or someone that works with creatives, I absolutely, I'm thankful to be a part of like the Arts Build family, and it is it's great. And any question you have, they can look at it, review it before you hit that submit button. So I encourage anyone that is looking for funding for a project to definitely it go for it. The worst they can tell you is no.
Thank you, Becca. I appreciate that. We have worked really hard to streamline our application process. As relational funders, we do value all the work you all do throughout the county. And we do understand that sometimes things shift. And as long as you have great communication with us, traditionally we can say, move forward, we're all good. So yes, thank you. And Becca, it was also part of our Periscope program. She's has really stepped into a lot of the different initiatives. So don't be afraid to ask about other things we do. We'd love to have you.